votes taken in executive session. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? As I just indicated earlier, there were no votes taken in executive session. First item on the agenda, approval of minutes for December 20th.
Motion made.
Second. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We have no correspondence. No one has signed up for public comment. Chair will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Motion made to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Any questions?
Need a second.
Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Palana. Members of the committee, before I move into my report, I would just like to introduce our newest employee, soon-to-be newest employee. The new part-time assistant facility director is with us, with Mr. Farrelly. We are very fortunate to have hired Rosanna Vellante to assume that position starting February 1st. Ms. Vellante was the unanimous top choice of a screening committee that interviewed a number of applicants and was recommended to me. Ms. Vellante comes to us with 31 years of experience in the city of Providence, having supervised 85 crossing guards. She'll be supervising the crossing guards in North Providence as well. The number will be far lower. And also she had responsibility for facilities on the school side and the municipal side of 40 buildings. And so she will be assisting Mr. Farrelly in all of those tasks, but primarily also be responsible for supervising our custodians. So her references were stellar. She's full of energy and a hard worker and extremely diligent and fastidious, very personable and professional. And so we are really excited to welcome her to the district, and I wanted everyone to meet Ms. Vellante this evening.
And on behalf of the school committee, we welcome you to North Providence. It's going to be a major change from Providence, I assure you, for the good. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the first item in my report, I would request approval for the early childhood program restructuring in the early childhood program administrator job description submitted in your packet. Just to give you a little bit of background on this, as you may be aware, the state legislature passed a series of laws relative to requirements for pre-K programs in Rhode Island public schools, requiring those programs to become accredited according to the Bright Stars standard. So Ms. Van Avery, Ms. Seitzinger, Mr. Hicks, all of us have gotten together to look at how we would meet the requirements of that law, which must be accomplished by 2026. And so we are proposing a restructuring of our early childhood program to include this position. There will be no impact to the budget. It will be a completely different position and set of responsibilities for what would be needed to guide our staff, support our families, our students, develop budgets, write curriculum, and ensure that our early childhood program meets the required standards. So we feel this is an essential component for the district to be able to move forward to attain the appropriate Bright Stars rating and to meet the timeline established by the state law. So I would request approval, but if any members of the committee have any questions of us or Ms. Van Avery, certainly we would entertain that at this time. And as I said, there is no impact on the budget as we are reallocating existing resources to this position.
Is there a motion?
Made. Second.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is I am requesting approval of the bid submitted. We would like to move forward replacing the bleachers at both of our middle schools, Birchwood and Ritchie Middle Schools. They have been assessed by our facility assessor, our architect, Studio Jade. They are included in our Stage 1 application, our capital asset protection program. They were identified as a need in the district, and we had hoped that at some point we would be able to replace the bleachers, but it has come to the time where they need to be replaced sooner rather than later. There's a series of memos in your packet, one from Studio Jade identifying the issue, and also an application that we would submit. I've had conversations with the Rhode Island School Building Authority, and because of the state of the bleachers and the liability that they pose to our students and staff and spectators, they would fall under the Health and Safety Reimbursement Program. So with your approval this evening, we would submit that application to the Department of Education and receive reimbursement for the expense, and the difference we would use fund balance to pay for the bleachers. So rather than wait, we just feel that we can't wait and incur any further liability, and we know that this is an area that we had planned to address in the future, but need to do so now. So I would request approval of the submitted bid. The company that we are using is on the state master price agreement. And also, as I said, we will be submitting an application to RIDE for reimbursement. And in my conversations, we received positive feedback that it will be approved.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions?
Just a quick comment. If I recall, these predate the opening of the middle school. They were already there and we moved them over.
I'm told that they are the original bleachers.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Mr. Ferroli has anything else to add, but they are the original bleachers.
Yeah.
They are wood.
These predate us opening the middle school with the gyms. We didn't buy new bleachers.
No.
Well, it's time to buy new bleachers.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the presentation of the fiscal year 25 budget, and I'll ask Dennis. Okay, so you have the presentation in front of you. This is the yearly presentation that we make to the school committee, and just so that you're aware of the timeline, this is my initial presentation. We will have a special budget workshop of the committee next Wednesday at 6:30. Ms. Casanelli is going to send out an email to everyone tomorrow, asking that if you have any questions that you would like to ask at that workshop, please send her the emails in advance so that she can collect the information that you might need. And then at our February meeting, we will formally approve the budget and then comply with the timelines to hand it over to the town. Okay. Okay, so our projected 2025 fiscal year budget is $34,097,415, as you can see, and our current budget is $32,850,260, which represents a dollar increase of $1,247,155. If you look at our state aid, we are fortunate that North Providence is one of only 5 communities in the state to see enrollment growth. And so therefore we benefited by that with a state aid increase projected of $642,916. And I will say that is the number that is submitted by the governor to the legislature. So that is not necessarily the final number. We have seen years where the state legislature has adjusted that number up or down based on revenues when they get back in session. So that's the basis of how we're formulating our budget. And you can see the miscellaneous tuitions as revenues. We are proposing a one-time use of $400,000 in our fund balance, primarily for the purchase of student Chromebooks. We've talked about the fact that one of the good things about the pandemic is that it really accelerated districts moving to be a one-to-one district. And that was out of necessity because of distance learning and the fact that we could not come to school. So the federal funds enabled us and everybody around the country to pretty much become one-to-one districts. That's the good thing. The issue with that is that now so much of learning has become basically codependent on these devices, not only in terms of curriculum, but also learning in the classroom, distance learning days. And also you see that we basically do not spend very much money at all on textbooks, but the ongoing expense to maintain being a one-to-one district is something that we certainly are going to have a conversation about going forward. But we're confident that with a one-time usage of $400,000 in our fund balance, that we could be able to continue as a one-to-one district at this point. And so the total increase of the budget, as you see there below, is 2.577102. Next slide. As I mentioned, North Providence is one of only 5 districts that saw a growth, an increase in enrollment. Our NSDEC numbers do show that our enrollment will continue to grow plus or minus 1% over the next 10 years. I think one factor that we have to consider, however, that I'm pretty sure that the NSDEC projections did not consider, is the recent laws that were passed by the state legislature to address the homelessness in the state and the lack of shelter in the town in the state. And so state law is pretty much going to be usurping various local zoning laws. And so we might be landlocked, but as Mr. Feroli and I have discussed, there's going to be an experience all across the state where there is going to be a push to build buildings higher, build buildings on smaller pieces of parcels of land that previously would not have been allowed. And so this is all part of the push to create more housing. So I do feel that we are going to continue to see an enrollment growth even in the town of North Providence. If I can go back to that a little bit, just to mention, as you know, there was an article in the paper about MLL students, multilingual learners, is the fastest growing student population in the state, and it's the fastest growing population in North Providence. When I first became superintendent, we had approximately 75 MLL students, and so now here we are, almost 6 years later, and we are over 400 MLL students, or close to 400. So we are considered a high incidence district, and we are committed to allocating resources to address the needs of our MLL population. The projected areas of increase that are driving the budget, obviously, we know that everyone is familiar with inflationary drivers that we're seeing all across the state and the world over the last few years. So, school departments are no different. Primarily salary increases relative to step increases of our employees. Also, the salary increase of 2.25%, which is pretty much aligned to market value. And so that amounts to about $905,000 for all of our employees receiving raises. And along with that, there's an increase in the cost for pension for our certified employees, an increase in materials and supplies of $387,000, and technology hardware of $385,000. So the amount to maintain our status as a one-to-one district is the $385,000, which is in the budget, plus the $400,000 that we are taking out of fund balance. So it's about a $700,000 to $800,000 increase to replace 1,000 Chromebooks per year and all of the platforms and licenses that go with it. Next slide. This is just a breakdown of FTEs, full-time equivalent employees in the district, and as you can see, we have not added staff. It's been a very lean budget, but we are finding ways to consolidate some areas. So you'll see that we have consolidated approximately 4 paraprofessionals, so that certified professionals that we had in federal funds, including an increase in our MLL staff, an increase in our special education staff. If you recall, we did receive federal funding to start our own special education house programs. That allowed us to lower our out-of-district numbers, but now we have to assume the salaries for those employees, which previously were paid for by the federal funds. Those funds are expiring in the new fiscal year, and so now the operating budget has to assume those positions in special ed and MLL. And again, those two populations are our highest need populations. We allocated those positions in federal funds during the pandemic because we knew we needed the additional staff to address those needs. And those are not staffing positions that we feel we can dispense. But overall, the number of FTEs is down by 1. Crossing guards, Rajan, there you go. We go from 85 to 22. And yard monitors as well. So we're still maintaining a lean budget in terms of the number of personnel. Next slide. As I said, with the federal funds expiring, we will need to allocate positions back in the operating budget. This includes 3 positions from ESSER, which included a math interventionist, which helped us with learning loss and implementation of the new high-quality curriculum, and 2 MLL teachers, and 3 positions from the LEAP grant, which was the special ed grant. So that would be a behavioral analyst and our therapeutic classroom teachers. We also have 3 additional positions the district is required as part of the program to hire an additional JROTC instructor. We all know we have a JROTC program. It's flourishing in the district. We're very proud of it, and it's growing. But part of the requirements of having that program is that within a 2-year period, we need to add a second instructor. The CTE director and the high school administration are also requesting adding a biomedical pathway. So we would need a science teacher to implement that pathway, which we know there is demand for at the high school. So that position also is included in our budget request. And so because of the above changes, there is also an increase to the corresponding benefits of those positions that we are requesting. Technology hardware, as I stated already, as a result of the pandemic, every student in the district now has a device for use in school as well as for distance learning. Each device has a useful life of approximately 5 years. And so in order for us to remain a one-to-one district and replace 1,000 devices every year, we are proposing using $400,000 of our fund balance to purchase updated devices. Next slide. The 2 areas are also impacted are general supplies and materials and web-based instruction. And again, these were included in our federal funds. So licenses for the new high-quality curriculum and licenses for the one-to-one devices. The federal funds were an allowable use of the fees for those, but now we have to maintain them in the regular budget with the federal funds expiring. So we were able to purchase new math and science curriculum as well as other online programs that are now used throughout the district, such as IXL, Achieve 3000, and Lexia. And these ongoing programs and yearly supplies used in conjunction with the online platforms need to be allocated in the operating budget because, as I said, the federal funds can no longer support it as they are going away. Excuse me. If you look at our history of state aid, 1.8 million in 2017, and you can see the trajectory. When the funding formula was accelerated from 17 to 22, we enjoyed significant state aid increases. As you can see, those increases are getting smaller and smaller. And so, we certainly would like to see what we used to get, but we will take the 643,000. It's better than nothing. And there are several communities that actually saw declines in state aid under the submitted budget by the governor. So 643,000 for North Providence. And this is just a history of the funding that we have received from the local appropriation. And so our request of the town this budget cycle is $1.247 million, which represents just a 3% increase in the local appropriation of the budget. So that is, as I said, the initial budget presentation. You may have questions at this point, but certainly for the workshop on the 31st at 6:30. I believe it was originally at 6 o'clock, but we did have to change it to the regular meeting time at 6:30 because there was a conflict with some members. So it is at 6:30, and Ms. Casanelli is going to be sending out an email that if any members of the school committee have any questions regarding the budget to send them to her. You have obviously my presentation, but you also have the line-by-line breakdown of the budget where you can peruse that maybe this weekend and then send any questions to Ms. Casanelli or obviously any of the other directors or to me.
I would just add that any school committee member, please review the budget, the financial information that you have. And if you have additional questions or concerns, just contact Mrs. Casanelli to get any information that you would need to review the budget on January 31st. Now, on January 31st, we'll be voting on the budget to send it on to the
No, I'm
town
sorry. So
council.
that will be just a workshop for the school committee to give
Workshop?
feedback. Yep. And the approval will be at the February meeting, the regular monthly February meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions currently? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to old business. School committee reports, we have none. We have no old business. New business, Mr. Goho?
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is I would request approval of the trust proposal to provide healthcare insurance to the district as submitted in your packet and discussed previously this evening.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is I would request approval of the enclosed quote and invoice to replace the cafeteria floors at Birchwood Middle School, Ritchie Middle School, and North Providence High School. Just to give some background on this, Chartwell's, our food service provider, has a fund balance, accumulated surplus, which by law must be spent down. So they are redesigning the cafeteria serving area at the high school and enlarging it. And as part of that project, they will be impacting the flooring of the cafeteria. So we received a quote from a company on the state master price agreement to look at replacing that entire floor in the high school, which will become necessary after this remodel takes place. But also now going back to, like I talked about, the issue with the bleachers, one of the things that was identified in the original stage one of our facilities is that the middle school cafeteria floors also are in need of improvement. So when we talk about the bleachers, when we talk about the cafeteria floors at the middle schools, these were part of the health and safety potential projects of the bond. So by us replacing the bleachers through the school building authority health and safety program and getting reimbursed on them, and then replacing the cafeteria floors at Ritchie and Birchwood, not impacting the operating budget, not impacting the bond, and using the Chartwell's food service accumulated surplus, we are satisfying those two significant needs at the middle school, not only sooner rather than later, and not at the end of the bond, and not impacting the bond as well. So the company that has submitted a bid is on the state master price agreement. We've been told that one of the floors could be replaced during one of the upcoming vacations, and then the other two would be replaced during the summer at the two middle schools. They really are badly in need of repair. So I would request approval of the quotation.
Motion made.
Do I hear a second? There's a second. Questions?
Question.
Mr. Andriozzi?
So this doesn't impact our budget, from what you're telling me?
No, this is
So
not
the
coming
90
out of the operating budget. This is coming out of the Chartwell's. Oh,
Good.
go ahead.
So we have a surplus in our food service account. So at the end of the year, RIDE only allows you to keep 3 months of expenses in your federal account for food service. So we have to spend the money down by reinvesting it in the schools, and the cafeteria floors would be a good use of that, some of that money.
So that's a big surplus, because this is 90,000.
Yeah, we have a big surplus because when all the lunches were free, we were getting federally reimbursed on all of those lunches instead of just the ones that qualify. So the reimbursements are much lower now, but we had built up quite a surplus in a couple of years during COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I would also say we're going to come back to you next month. Mr. Feroli and I discussed this. The floors in the gymnasiums at the two middle schools, also with the bleachers being removed, that's the optimum time to address those floors as well. So we do have a quote from a company on the state master price agreement. It came in after the agenda was already sent out, so we will put that on the February agenda for the committee to approve as well. So the middle school gyms will be totally, renovated appropriately. Next item on the agenda is I would request approval of the partnership agreement between the Providence College Graduate Literacy Program and the North Providence School Department for grades K through 2 as submitted.
So moved.
Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is I would request approval to administer the Rhode Island Student Survey in grades 6 through 12. As you saw in your packet, this request came to us from the Rhode Island Department of Education, endorsed by the commissioner and the Rhode Island Department of Health. This is a voluntary survey. Grades 6 through 12 students are not required to take it. They may opt out. And the survey, as you've seen in your packet, is pretty innocuous in terms of asking about the patterns of student use of tobacco, vaping, alcohol, and other substances, so that the state can gather data in terms of how to best direct resources to support cities and towns and school districts in those areas.
Motion made to approve?
Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is I would request committee approve the submitted bid for the football championship rings as submitted.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Question.
Question, Mr. Andriozzi.
I don't see the bid. All I see in my packet is just a letter from Mr. Ficcicelli saying, I have reviewed the 3 bids. I don't have anything up with the bids.
Do you have that information from him?
I don't have it, but I can forward it tomorrow,
Any idea, roughly?
how much they are or
Yeah.
what company.
You went with,
They were all around the same price range. All the rings were like 150 to 165. They were like.
correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know how that didn't get transmitted into your packet, but I know the company that he used is on the state master price agreement.
Yeah, we got 3 bids in for the rings. But I can find the company bid and send it to you. You can take a look at it.
Yeah, it's just not in this packet, that's all. Just curious what the final cost is.
So I would ask the chair or Attorney Scungio how we should proceed with the recommendation of the vote.
Well, the committee could vote if it feels comfortable with an amount. If we send us an amount to tell them, we could defer it for the next meeting.
I don't have a problem purchasing them, I just want to know how much it is.
Like I said, I remember when we opened them, the lower bids were in the 150s and then they went up to like in the 160s. I believe he might have picked a company somewhere in the middle because they were local and they could get what he wanted and the reputation. But I'm not sure if he states that in his memo.
He does.
Why don't we put it on next Wednesday's agenda?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, that's what I.
Oh, okay, for next week. Yeah,
Thank you.
and I can send that to you.
January
Should I
31st.
rescind my motion, Mr. Chairman? Rescind my motion at this point?
The motion is rescinded by Mr. Pollak. Who seconded that motion? Who seconded that motion?
Rod.
I second.
Rod? Rod, Mr. De Silva rescinds the second. So there is no motion to approve. The agreement is to place the championship ring on the January 31st meeting. We don't need a motion for that. We can just place that on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, next
Yeah.
item.
Yeah, I saw the bid, and I don't know if maybe in the transfer of the hard copy letter, the bid got lost between. Yeah, I know we do. Okay, thank you. Okay, at this point, I would request approval of the enclosed suicide prevention policy, which has been reviewed.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is I would request approval of the enclosed threat assessment policy, which has been updated.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is I would request approval of the updated physical restraint policy.
So moved.
Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is I would request approval of the new policy, which will replace the existing policy, the service animals in school policy.
Can we combine the use of animals with that?
Yeah, we could also, that's also a new policy, the use of animals in schools for educational purposes policy, I and J. I would request approval of both of those policies.
So moved.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Last item is I would request approval of the student health services requirement policy, which is a new policy as well.
So moved.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Goho. Item number 12, approval of bills.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions on the bill list?
Just one quick question. Do we have a spreadsheet that outlines what we do with charters in terms of numbers of kids and when we pay and how much we're paying and where the money's coming from and all that?
We keep a spreadsheet in our office of each charter school, how many students, actually the names of the students are on there, their grades, things like that, and when the payments come in after we've billed them quarterly. So we do have a spreadsheet for all of that,
And how
even
would-
the career and tech and things like that.
How do we verify it?
How many? Oh, we go out and verify all of them.
Okay.
No, Tim's working on it constantly.
Oh, okay.
We keep him busy.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. And then how much of state aid is actually encumbered for that? Is there like a percentage?
Well,
Specific amount. I always used to say the state gives us money to pay their bills.
but they don't give us money for that. I mean, they did have a small amount that they gave us over, I think, the last 3 years for students leaving to go to charter schools. But I think the amount we got last year was like 35,000. That doesn't even touch what we're paying out.
No kidding.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, use of property request.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no request to address the committee. We have no pending business. Just to remind everyone that there will be a budget workshop next Wednesday on January 31st. Any committee members have any questions or concerns, just contact Mrs. Casanelli beforehand. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.